Anger functions differently from other negative emotions because it focuses outward rather than inward. Anger blames others, not one's self. Yet the lack of strong research on anger makes it difficult to definitively relate it to other emotions. Perhaps anger needs to be looked at independently and with a focus on its features. The most common feature used to define anger is that it has causes or triggers. The frustration-aggression hypothesis states that anger and aggression result when a person's goal-directed behaviors are blocked or thwarted. You stop me from doing what I want and frustrate my goals. Therefore, I get angry or aggressive. However, many of the causes of anger are seen to be not so much events, but rather perceptions or evaluations of another's actions. What are some of the most anger-inducing stimuli? One researcher's analysis led to the following list of 10 factors. 1. Interruption of goal-directed behaviors when time is important. 2. Experiencing personal degradation or unfair treatment and being powerless to stop it. 3. Being treated unfairly, unkindly, or in a prejudicial way, regardless of whether the victim is present. 4. Being the object of dishonesty or broken promises, or being disappointed by others or oneself. 5. Having one's authority, feelings, or property being disregarded by others. 6. Being ignored or treated badly by a significant other. 7. Experiencing harm because of one's negligence toward you. 8. Being shown by others' behavior that they do not care. 9. Being the object of verbal or physical assault. And 10. Being a helpless victim. It's important to note that these factors are not always going to lead to anger. They may lead to depression or some other feeling. Anger is also relative to context, or where and how it occurs. For example, anger is more likely to be experienced in the home and with people who are close to the heart. The target of anger is often someone very close to us. Yet anger can also be generated toward those we have no real connection to other than an event that generated the anger. There is also a cultural aspect to this, as people in Western cultures are more likely to get angry at someone they know, while in Eastern cultures, the anger is more likely to be turned on a stranger. Anger may also be classified as a secondary emotion to arousal. For example, where a pet lover sees a person throw a puppy out of a car window and drive off. The initial shock and discomfort likely has little thought involved. Revulsion at the act would likely be the first emotion. Only after a few seconds of cognitive thought on the horrible nature of the act does anger set in as an emotion. Some acts may indeed trigger anger first and foremost, while other acts lead to anger as a secondary emotion. Another feature of anger is its behavioral reaction. Anger can be described as the desire to behave aggressively, yet not necessarily to act out the desire. Whereas we cannot definitively link anger with aggression, a more likely link is the desire to act aggressively. In more practical terms, when someone is clearly angry, they may have more of a desire to act on that anger and become aggressive. There are many perceived features of anger, but perhaps the best takeaway from recognizing that anger has so many features is to understand that all those variables are what make anger so difficult to define, especially in a clinical sense. Anger has many features and many ways to express those features. It can be controlled through self-control, and it can be released in a controlled manner of expression. It can be part of mutual discussions to resolve a problem, and it can be something mulled over as one tries to come to a decision on how to proceed. It can lead to a timeout, where one is removed from a conflict, either by self-removal or forcible removal. And anger can be unleashed without control in the form of aggression on persons or things. Anger can also be verbally expressed in several ways. It can erupt noisily in an argument, or it can lash out in a verbal assault. It can also be directed in the form of verbal put-downs, such as insults or sarcasm. However, perhaps one of the most important features of anger that has been studied extensively is anger through body language. Many studies put body language well above verbal language in terms of accurately presenting a person's true intentions and feelings. Body language plays a crucial role in police questioning and interrogations of suspects. The slightest tick of an eye in response to a certain question can be the tell that gives away a person's secret. A person's body has a difficult time disguising anger, perhaps due to the fact that their mind is so occupied with it that they cannot pay sufficient attention to their body language. Anger can be expressed through multiple facial features, such as squinting the eyes, curling the mouth downward, wrinkling the brow, flaring the nostrils, and flushing of skin tone. The positioning of a person's body toward another, how they move their hands, whether they cross their arms, lower their chin, raise or lower their voice, and many other features all demonstrate anger and the potential for aggression. Anger is also a universal emotion. While some researchers may focus on anger as it relates to cultural differences, anthropologists have found anger across the globe and consider it a universal emotion. Angry people worldwide use very similar terms to describe their feelings when angry, and their cultural differences do not seem to impact their feelings significantly. This is not to say that culture bears no relationship to anger. Cultural differences may have significant impacts on how people express anger. Remember, the feeling of anger and its expression are two very different things. In summary, anger is a universal, relatively frequent negative emotion that can be intense and presented in a wide variety of behaviors. While it can be verbally restrained, it is difficult to hide behaviorally. Perhaps the most astute observation is that anger has not been sufficiently researched to come to any logical, rational, or empirical conclusions that allow it to be definitively classified or defined.